Imagine this. You've climbed the mountain, you've built companies that touch the stars, push the boundaries of what humanity thinks is possible, and amassed wealth and recognition beyond what most people could even dream of. You've got it all, right? The world looks at you and thinks, that guy's got no problems. He can have anyone he wants. But here's the brutal truth. The higher you climb, the harder it is to find someone who sees you, not the empire you've built, not the headlines, not the bank account, but the real you, the one who's still human, still flawed, still searching for something deeper than all of this. That's where I'm at right now. And if you're listening to this, I'm betting some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. This isn't a sob story. This is about the raw, messy reality of trying to find love when your life is a public spectacle. So let's dive in because this is the most honest thing I've ever shared. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to lay it bare, to talk about something universal that hits harder when you're in the spotlight, the search for a genuine connection. You might think success makes love easy. More money, more options, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. The reality is, the more you achieve, the more complicated it gets to find someone who wants you for who you are, not what you represent. I've spent years building things, rockets, cars, neural interfaces, solving problems that seem impossible. But the hardest problem I've ever faced, finding a woman who can look past the noise, past the fame, and see the guy who's still figuring it out, still wrestling with doubts, still wanting a life that feels real. That's the mission I'm on, and it's a mission that's failing more often than it succeeds. Let me paint you a picture. Picture a guy who's got everything society says you need to be desirable. A fortune that could buy private islands, a name that opens doors anywhere, and a vision that's literally trying to colonize Mars. Sounds like a dating app profile that'd crash the servers, doesn't it? But here's the catch. That same success creates a force field around you. It draws in people who see dollar signs, status, or a chance to ride your coattails to their own spotlight. And the ones who don't care about that stuff, the ones who are confident, accomplished, grounded in their own purpose, they're the ones who see my life and think, no thanks, too much drama, and I don't blame them. Who wants to sign up for a relationship where every dinner date comes with paparazzi, where every conversation might end up on a gossip site, where your private life is dissected by strangers on the internet? That's my reality, and it's a reality that makes finding love feel like searching for water on the moon. I'm looking for um, a specific kind of woman, not a trophy, not a fan, not someone who's dazzled by the lifestyle or the private jets. Um, I want someone who's got her own thing going, her own dreams, her own victories, her own fire. Someone who's so secure in who she is that she doesn't need my name to feel complete. Someone who gets that my work isn't just a job, it's a mission to change the world and doesn't resent the hours I pour into it. Most importantly, I want someone who wants to know me, the real me, not the guy on magazine covers or X posts, the guy who messes up, who doubts himself, who sometimes lies awake at night wondering if he's enough. That's who I am underneath it all, and that's who I need her to see. But here's the problem. My life makes that kind of connection nearly impossible. Let's break it down. When you're in my position, the dating pool splits into two camps, and neither one feels right. On one side, you've got the opportunists. These are the people who approach you with a gleam in their eye, not because they're excited about you, but because they see a ticket to a better life. They're drawn to the idea of being associated with someone like me, someone whose name carries weight, whose bank account can open doors. I've had countless interactions where I can feel it from the first handshake, the first smile. They're not talking to me, they're talking to a caricature of wealth and power. They'll laugh at my jokes a little too hard, agree with my ideas a little too quickly, and I'm left wondering, are they into me or are they into what I can do for them? It's a question that haunts every interaction, and it's exhausting. You start to second guess every compliment, every moment of affection. Is this real or is it just another transaction? Then there's the other side, the women who would actually be a good fit. These are the ones I'm drawn to. Independent, driven, with their own careers, their own passions, their own sense of purpose. They're teachers shaping young minds, doctors saving lives, artists creating beauty, entrepreneurs building something meaningful. They don't need my money or my status because they've got their own. They're not impressed by fame because they're too busy making a difference in their own way. But here's the kicker. These women often take one look at my life and run the other way. And I get it. Dating me means signing up for a circus. It means security teams trailing you to the grocery store, media outlets speculating about your every move, random strangers on the internet debating whether you're worthy of being with me. Who in their right mind would want that? These women have built fulfilling lives without me, and they're smart enough to know that getting involved with someone like me might complicate things more than it's worth. This creates a paradox that I wrestle with every day. The very achievements that were supposed to make me a catch, building companies, pushing human progress, chasing big dreams, have made it harder to find the one thing that would make it all feel worthwhile. A real, honest to God partnership. I'm not talking about someone to pose with at events or to share a fancy vacation. I'm talking about a teammate, someone who's in it for the long haul, who's willing to navigate the chaos of my life and still choose to build something real with me. But the louder my public profile gets, the harder it is to find her. It's like the signal gets drowned out by the noise. And the noise is deafening: media scrutiny, public expectations, the constant hum of people wanting something from you. It's enough to make you wonder if the whole idea of love is just a mirage. I I've had moments where I thought I was close. I've met women who seem genuine, who seem to get it, but then reality sets in. Maybe we're out at a restaurant and I catch her glancing at the people staring at us, whispering, snapping photos with their phones. Or maybe she starts talking about her brand and how being with me could elevate it. That's when the walls go up. I can't help it. Years of dealing with people who see me as a stepping stone have made me hypervigilant. I start analyzing every word, every gesture, looking for signs that they're more interested in the lifestyle than in me. It's not fair to them, I know. Some of them are probably sincere, but when you've been burned enough times, you learn to keep your guard up, and that guard, that defensive distance, is the real enemy. It protects me from being used, but it also keeps out the people who might actually be worth letting in. I remember one specific moment that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was having coffee with a woman I'd been seeing for a few weeks. She was smart, accomplished, ran her own startup. On paper, she was exactly the kind of person I thought could handle my world. We were talking about something mundane. Maybe it was a book we'd both read, and for a moment, it felt real, like we were just two people connecting. Then her phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, smiled, and said, "Oh, my friend just saw us on X. Apparently, we're trending." She laughed, but I felt my stomach drop. That moment crystallized it for me. Even when I think I'm getting close to someone, the world outside is always there, watching, judging, turning our private moments into public content. She didn't mean anything by it, but it was a reminder that my life doesn't allow for normal. And normal is what I crave most of all. That craving for normalcy, for a relationship where I can just be a guy, not a symbol, drives me. But it's also what makes this so hard. The women who could give me that, the ones who don't care about the glitz and glamour, are the ones who are least likely to want to deal with my reality. They've got their own lives, their own goals, their own sense of peace. Why would they trade that for the chaos of being with me? I've had women tell me straight up, "I like you, but I don't want my life to become a headline." And I respect that. I admire it even. It takes guts to know what you want and to walk away from something that doesn't fit. But it leaves me in this weird limbo, caught between two worlds, one where people want me for the wrong reasons, and another where the right people don't want the baggage that comes with me. So, what's the answer? I don't have it figured out yet, but I do know this: the problem isn't just out there in the world of fame and fortune, it's in here, in me. I've spent so long protecting myself from being used that I've forgotten how to let people in. I've gotten good at the surface stuff, the charm, the witty banter, the big ideas, but when it comes to the real stuff, the vulnerable stuff, I freeze. I'm scared of being seen, because being seen means risking being hurt. And when you're in my position, the stakes feel higher. You're not just risking a broken heart, you're risking someone exploiting that vulnerability for their own gain. It's a vicious cycle. The more I protect myself, the harder it is to connect. And the harder it is to connect, the more I feel like I have to protect myself. But here's where I'm at now. I'm done accepting that this is just how it has to be. I'm not giving up on finding her, the woman who sees me, who gets me, who is willing to navigate the madness of my life because she believes in us. She's out there somewhere, living her own life, chasing her own dreams, probably not even thinking about someone like me. Maybe she's a scientist working late in a lab, a teacher grading papers after hours, an artist pouring her soul into a canvas. Whoever she is, she's not impressed by wealth or status. She's looking for the same thing I am: a real connection built on shared values, mutual respect, and the kind of love that doesn't care about the spotlight. This isn't just about me, though. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt like your own success, whether it's a career, a passion, or just the life you've built, has made it harder to find someone who gets you, I want you to know You're not alone. It's not just billionaires who struggle with this. Anyone who's ever poured their heart into something bigger than themselves knows what it's like to wonder if there's someone out there who can keep up, who can see past the achievements to the person underneath. And to the women listening, I know you've got your own battles, your own dreams, your own reasons for guarding your heart. Maybe you've met someone who seemed perfect but came with too much baggage. Maybe you've walked away from something because it didn't feel right. I respect that. I admire that. But I also want to challenge you, don't give up on finding someone who sees you for you either, because that's what this is all about. Finding someone who makes the chaos worth it. I'm not saying it's easy. Hell, it's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. And I've built rockets to Mars, but I believe it's possible. I have to. Because if I don't, then all of this, the companies, the missions, the late nights means nothing. What's the point of changing the world if you don't have someone to share it with? So I'm still out here searching, failing, learning, and trying again. And I'm starting to realize that maybe the first step isn't finding her. Maybe it's becoming the kind of man she'd want to find, a man who's not just defined by his work or his wealth, but by his heart, his flaws, his willingness to show up as himself, no matter how scary that is. That's where I'm starting. That's where this journey begins. So I've laid it out for you, the paradox of success, the way it builds walls around your heart, even as it opens doors everywhere else. I'm out here searching for a woman who sees me, not the headlines or the bank account, but the guy who's still human, still stumbling, still craving something real. But let's dig deeper, because this isn't just about the world out there throwing obstacles in my path. It's about the walls I've built myself, the ones I didn't even realize were there until they started keeping out the very people I want to let in. This is where it gets raw, where I have to face the fact that I'm part of the problem. And if you're listening, I'm betting some of you have your own walls, your own defenses that you've built to protect yourself, maybe without even knowing how high they've gotten. Let's talk about trust, or the lack of it. When you've spent years in the public eye, you learn fast that not everyone who smiles at you has your best interests at heart. I've had people, men, women, doesn't matter, approach me with charm, with flattery, with all the right words, only to find out later they were angling for something, a job, a connection, a piece of the pie. It's not just dating, it's every interaction. You start to see patterns, the too perfect compliments, the calculated questions, the way someone's eyes light up when they mention your latest project, not because they care about the tech, but because they see dollar signs. Over time, that does something to you. It makes you cynical. It makes you question every motive, every gesture, every, I'm a big fan of your work. And when you bring that mindset into dating, it's like trying to build a house on quicksand. I'm not proud of this, but I've become an expert at keeping people at arm's length. I can charm a room, crack jokes, talk big ideas about colonizing Mars or rewiring the human brain. But when it comes to letting someone see the real me, the guy who's not always sure he's got it all together, I freeze. It's like there's a switch in my head that flips to defend mode. The second I sense someone getting too close, I start testing them, looking for cracks in their story, waiting for the moment they reveal they're just here for the ride. It's not fair to them, and I know it. Some of these women were probably genuine, probably wanted to know me for me. But after enough betrayals, enough moments where I thought I'd found something real, only to realize it was a mirage, I've gotten too good at assuming the worst. And that's the trap. The more you protect yourself, the harder it is to let anyone in. Picture this. I'm at a dinner, maybe in New York, maybe LA, it doesn't matter. The woman across from me is sharp, runs her own company, has a laugh that makes the room feel warmer. We're talking about something real. Maybe it's AI ethics. Maybe it's just why New York pizza is objectively better than anything else. For a moment, I let my guard down. I'm not analyzing, not second guessing. I'm just there in the moment, feeling like a regular guy. Then she says something small, innocent, like, I saw your latest post on X and it got me thinking. And just like that, the switch flips. My brain starts spinning. Is she here because of the post? Is she trying to align herself with my public image? Is this about me, or is it about what I represent? The moment's gone, and I'm back behind my walls, analyzing, calculating, protecting. That's the cycle I'm stuck in, and it's a cycle that's hard to break. Here's the thing. I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be the guy who's always looking for the catch, who's so afraid of being used that he pushes away the people who might actually care. But it's not just about flipping a switch and deciding to trust again. It's about unlearning years of instincts, years of moments where I let someone in only to find out they were playing a game. I've had women tell me they love my vision, my passion, only to later admit they thought dating me would get them a seat at the table, maybe a boardroom, maybe a red carpet. I've had others who seemed genuine but couldn't handle the reality of my life. The security teams, the constant travel, the fact that a quiet night in is never really quiet when the world's watching. Each time, it chips away at you. Each time, the walls get a little higher. But let's flip the script for a second. I know I'm not the only one dealing with this. If you're listening, especially the women out there, I'm guessing you've had your own moments of doubt, your own reasons for keeping people at a distance. Maybe you've been burned by someone who said all the right things but didn't mean them. Maybe you've built your own career, your own life, and you're protective of it because you know how hard you worked to get here. Maybe you've walked away from a relationship because it came with too much baggage or because you weren't sure you could trust what was being offered. I get it, I respect it, and I want you to know that those walls you've built, they're not a sign of weakness. They're proof you've been through something real, something that taught you to value yourself. But here's the challenge. How do you keep those walls from becoming a prison? For me, the answer is starting to come into focus, but it's not easy. It's about recognizing that trust isn't something you just give away, it's something you build slowly, deliberately, with someone who's willing to meet you halfway. The woman I'm looking for, she's not going to be fazed by my defenses. She's going to be patient not because she's trying to win me, but because she's confident enough in herself to know that real connection takes time. She's going to call me out when I'm hiding behind charm or dodging vulnerability, but she's going to do it with kindness, not judgment. And most importantly, she's going to want me for the same reason I want her, because we see each other, really see each other, flaws and all, and we still choose to show up. I've had glimpses of what that could look like, but they're fleeting. I remember a conversation with a woman I met at a conference a while back. She was a neuroscientist working on brain machine interfaces, my kind of nerd. We spent hours debating the ethics of neural tech, the kind of conversation that lights me up because it's not just about ideas, it's about what those ideas mean for humanity. For a moment, I thought, this could be it. She wasn't dazzled by my name. She was too busy challenging my assumptions about consciousness, but then life got in the way. My schedule pulled me to another continent, her research took her to a lab halfway across the country, and the spark fizzled out before it could catch fire. It wasn't anyone's fault, just the reality of two people with big lives trying to find space for something more, but it left me wondering, what would it take to make that kind of connection stick? That's the question I'm wrestling with now. How do you build something real when your life is a whirlwind? How do you find someone who's not just willing to deal with the chaos, but who sees it as part of the adventure? I don't have all the answers, but I'm starting to see that it's not just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person. I've spent so long focused on protecting myself that I've forgotten how to be vulnerable, how to let someone in without a million calculations running in the background, and that's on me. If I want a relationship that's real, I have to show up as real. Not the guy on the magazine covers, not the guy with the grand plans to save the world, but the guy who's still learning, still growing, still figuring out how to love without fear. To the women listening, I want to say this. I know you've got your own dreams, your own battles, your own reasons for being careful with your heart. Maybe you're out there building something incredible, a career, a family, a passion project, and you're wondering if there's anyone who can keep up with you, who can see you for all that you are. I'm here to tell you that person exists, but finding them might mean letting go of some of your own defenses too. It might mean taking a chance on someone who doesn't fit your checklist, but feels right in a way you can't explain. It might mean being patient, not just with them, but with yourself as you learn to trust again. Because if I've learned anything, it's that the best things in life, love, connection, meaning they don't come easy. They're worth fighting for, worth failing for, worth getting back up and trying again for. I'm still in this fight. Every day, I'm working to tear down the walls I've built, to show up as the man I want to be, not just the man the world expects. It's messy, it's hard, and sometimes it feels like I'm taking one step forward and two steps back, but I'm not giving up because somewhere out there is a woman who's just as real, just as driven, just as human as I am. And when I find her, I want to be ready not just to meet her, but to build something with her, something that makes all the noise, all the chaos fade into the background. That's the goal. That's the mission. And I'm just getting started. All right, we've peeled back the layer of success that isolates, walls built from years of distrust, the constant tug of war between wanting to be seen and fearing being used. I've shown you the battlefield I'm fighting on, but now let's get to the scars, the moments that cut deep and taught me lessons I didn't want to learn. This isn't about wallowing, it's about facing the truth head on, the way you'd stare down a failed rocket launch or a code that just won't run. Love, like any hard problem, leaves you bruised when you get it wrong, and I've gotten it wrong plenty. But those failures, they're data points, not dead ends. And one of those data points, a single conversation changed how I see everything. If you're out there, especially the women listening, wondering why love feels like a puzzle you can't solve, this is for you. Let's talk about the moment I realized my own life was getting in the way of my heart. I've always approached problems systematically. Build a company, break it down to first principles, iterate, pivot, repeat. Send a rocket to orbit, physics, engineering, relentless testing. But love doesn't bend to equations or schedules. It's messy, unpredictable, and it forces you to confront parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. I learned that the hard way with a woman I thought could be the one. She wasn't a celebrity, wasn't chasing fame. She was a software engineer, someone who'd built her own path in Silicon Valley, writing code that powered systems most people never think about. We met at a tech conference, one of those events where everyone's trying to network, but we ended up in a corner arguing about the future of decentralized systems. Her mind was sharp, her laugh was real, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was talking to someone who didn't care about my last name or my net worth. I thought this could work. We started seeing each other, and for a while, it was good, really good. We'd spend evenings dissecting problems, her challenging my ideas about AI, me pushing her to think bigger about her own work. It wasn't just intellectual. There was a spark, a warmth, like we were building something together. But then the cracks started showing, not because of her or me, but because of the world I live in. We'd go out to dinner, and I'd catch her tensing up when people started staring, their phones subtly angled to snap a picture. Or we'd plan a weekend away, only for my team to insist on security protocols that turned a simple getaway into a military operation. She never complained, but I could see it wearing on her. She'd joke about feeling like she was dating a secret agent, but behind the humor was a truth. My life wasn't built for the kind of simplicity she craved. The moment that broke me came one night over dinner. We were at this quiet little place, tucked away from the chaos, just the two of us. I thought we were finally getting somewhere, letting our guards down. Then she looked at me, her fork paused midair, and said, I don't know if I'm dating you or the idea of you. I froze. She wasn't angry, wasn't accusing me of anything. Her voice was soft, almost sad, but it hit like a punch. She went on, when it's just us, I see this guy who's curious, who's funny, who's maybe a little lost sometimes. But then we step outside and it's like I'm with this icon. People don't see us. They see you with some woman, and I'm just a footnote in their story. I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that I could fix it. But deep down, I knew she was right. My life, my public life, was casting a shadow over us, and no amount of charm or grand gestures could make it go away. She wasn't asking for much. She wanted what most people want, a relationship where you can be yourself, where a quiet night in doesn't come with 1,000 eyes watching. But my reality made that impossible. Every move I make is news. Every person I'm seen with is a headline. She didn't want to be a headline. She wanted to be a partner. And as much as I cared about her, maybe even loved her, I couldn't give her that without dismantling everything I've built. We talked for hours that night, laying it all bare. She told me she admired my drive, my vision, but she couldn't live in a world where every moment was scrutinized, where her own identity got swallowed up by mine. I want to be with someone whose success lifts us up together, she said, not something that defines everything we are. That was the moment I knew we were done. Not because we didn't care, but because my life was too big, too loud for the kind of love she deserved. That conversation stuck with me, not just because it hurt, but because it forced me to see myself through her eyes. I'd spent so long focused on my own struggle finding someone who sees me that I hadn't fully grasped how my world affects the people I let in. To be with me means signing up for a life where privacy is a luxury, where spontaneity is a logistical nightmare, where even the simplest moments get magnified by the outside world. I don't blame her for walking away. She was protecting herself, her peace, her sense of who she is. And in a way, she was teaching me something I hadn't fully understood. Love isn't just about finding someone who gets you, it's about creating a space where both of you can thrive, where neither of you has to sacrifice your core to make it work. This wasn't the first time I'd lost someone to the chaos of my life, but it was the one that hit hardest. It made me question whether the kind of relationship I want is even possible. Can I find someone who's strong enough to handle the spotlight, secure enough to hold on to their own identity, and still willing to build something real with me? Or is that just a fantasy, a nice idea that doesn't survive contact with reality? For a while, I leaned toward the latter. I told myself maybe this is just the price of the life I've chosen. Maybe you don't get to build rockets and rewrite the future and have a quiet, grounded love. But then I thought about the women out there, the ones who've built their own worlds, who face their own battles, who know what it means to fight for something bigger than themselves. Those women exist. They're out there teaching kids, healing patients, creating art, running businesses. And if they can handle all that, maybe, just maybe, they can handle me. To the women listening, I want to speak to you directly. I know you've got your own dreams, your own fights, your own reasons for being cautious with who you let in. Maybe you've been with someone whose life was too big, too complicated, and you walked away because you knew you deserved better, not more money or more status, but more peace, more authenticity. I respect that. I admire that. But I also want to challenge you to think about what it means to find someone who's worth the chaos. Not someone who drags you into drama for no reason, but someone whose heart, whose mind, whose vision aligns with yours in a way that makes the mess feel like an adventure. Because that's what I'm holding out for. A woman who sees the chaos of my life and says, I'm in because it's you. I'm not saying it's easy. Hell, it's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do, harder than landing a rocket on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean. But I believe it's worth it. I have to. Because if I give up on this, on finding a real, honest connection, then what's the point of everything else? The companies, the missions, the late nights, they're all just noise if there's no one to share the quiet moments with. So I'm learning from my failures, from the women who've walked away, from the conversations that cut deep. I'm learning that love isn't something you can engineer or optimize. It's something you have to show up for fully, flaws and all. And I'm trying to show up even when it's scary, even when it means risking another bruise. This journey isn't over. I'm still out here, still searching, still screwing up and starting over. But every failure is teaching me something about myself, about what I want, about what it takes to build something real. And to the women out there, I want you to know your strength, your independence, your refusal to settle for less than you deserve, that's what makes you extraordinary. Don't let the world or its noise or its chaos make you doubt that. Keep building your life, keep chasing your dreams, and don't be afraid to let someone in who's willing to fight for you, baggage and all. Because that's what I'm doing, fighting, failing, and getting back up. And I'm not stopping until I find her. Okay, we've gone deep through the walls I've built, the scars from failed connections, the way my world casts a shadow over anyone who gets close. But now I want to take you somewhere else, to a moment that shook me to my core, a moment that made me question not just who I am now, but who I could have been. This isn't about the headlines or the hustle. It's about a chance encounter that brought the past crashing into the present, like a rocket re-entering the atmosphere at full speed. It's about seeing someone who once knew you better than anyone and realizing that some connections don't fade no matter how many years or miles you put between them. If you're listening, especially the women out there who've ever wondered about the paths you didn't take, the people who shaped you and then slipped away, this is for you. Let's talk about the day I ran into her again and how it changed everything. I'm not one for nostalgia. I'm too busy looking forward, building the next thing, solving the next problem, dreaming of a future where humanity is not just surviving, but thriving. But sometimes the past has a way of finding you, like a signal you thought was lost in the noise. It happened at a conference, one of those sprawling events where people talk big ideas and bigger egos. I just finished a panel, my head still buzzing with questions about AI and consciousness when I decided to take a walk. No agenda, no security tailing me, just a rare moment to breathe. I was on a university campus, one I hadn't set foot on in decades, not since I was a grad student chasing physics and big dreams. As I wandered past old buildings, something caught my eye, a woman sitting on a bench, engrossed in a stack of papers, her focus so intense it stopped me cold. I knew her instantly, even after all these years. Her name was Claire, and she was the one who'd shown me what it felt like to be truly understood. Claire and I had been close back in the day, back when I was just a scrappy kid with too many ideas and not enough polish. We met in a physics lab, arguing over quantum mechanics and drinking terrible coffee at 2 a.m. She was a theorist, brilliant in ways that made everyone else in the room feel like they were playing catch up. But it wasn't just her mind that drew me in, it was her heart. She had this way of seeing through my bravado, calling me out when I was posturing, but doing it with a smile that made me want to be better. We were together for less than a year, but those months were electric conversations that stretched into dawn, debates that turned into laughter, moments where I felt like she saw parts of me I didn't even know were there. We didn't break up because we stopped caring. Life just pulled us apart. I left to chase startups. She stayed to finish a doctorate, and we promised to keep in touch. You know how that goes. Promises fade, emails slow, and soon enough, she was just a memory, a benchmark for what connection could feel like. Seeing her there after all this time was like stepping into a time machine. She looked up, our eyes met, and for a split second, the years melted away. You, she said, her voice half surprise, half amusement, and just like that, I was 24 again, nervous and hopeful, and completely unprepared for what came next. We ended up at a nearby cafe, the kind of place where the coffee's still bad, but the conversation makes you forget. We talked for an hour, catching up on lives that had taken wildly different paths. She'd become a professor, teaching physics, mentoring students, still chasing questions about the universe that most people don't even know to ask. She had a family now, a husband who sounded solid, kids who were probably as brilliant as she was. Her life was full, grounded, real in a way that made me both happy for her and oddly envious. But as we talked, something else happened. The spark we'd had all those years ago, it was still there. Not in a romantic, let's run off together way, but in the way we finished each other's sentences, the way she'd challenge my half baked ideas with a raised eyebrow, the way we could jump from black holes to the meaning of life without missing a beat. It was like slipping into an old rhythm, one I hadn't realized I'd missed until it was right in front of me. We laughed about the past, about the time we stayed up all night trying to solve a problem, only to realize we'd misread the data. But we also talked about the present, her work, my work, the ways the world had changed and the ways it hadn't. And somewhere in that conversation, I felt it, a pang of what could have been. Here's the thing. I don't live in regret. I've made choices, big ones, risky ones, and I stand by them. Leaving academia to build companies, to push the boundaries of what's possible, that was my path, and it's led to things I'm proud of. But sitting across from Claire, hearing her talk about her life, her passions, her quiet victories, I couldn't help but wonder about the road not taken. What if I'd stayed? What if I'd prioritized that connection over the grind? Would we have built something lasting, something that didn't come with the baggage of my current life? It's a dangerous game, that what if, but it's one your mind plays anyway, especially when you're face to face with someone who once knew you better than you knew yourself. What hit me hardest wasn't the nostalgia or the hypotheticals. It was realizing how much Claire had shaped me, even after all these years. The way I think about problems, the way I argue for what I believe in, even the way I approach relationships, all of it carries echoes of her. She taught me that connection isn't just about shared interests, it's about someone who challenges you to be more, who sees the gaps in your logic and calls them out, not to win, but to make you better. And as I listened to her talk about her life now, I realized something else. She'd found her version of peace, her version of love, without the chaos I carry with me. Part of me wanted to ask, how did you do it? How did you find that balance? But I didn't, because deep down I knew the answer. She'd chosen a life that let her be herself fully without the world's eyes on her every move. That hour with Claire was a gift and a gut punch. It reminded me of what I'm searching for, not just a woman, but a connection like we had, one that's equal parts mind and heart. But it also showed me how far I've drifted from that. My life now is a whirlwind, meetings, launches, endless noise, and it's hard to imagine someone like Claire stepping into it without losing herself. When we said goodbye, we swapped emails, promised to keep in touch, but there was an unspoken understanding. We're different people now, with different lives, and some connections are better left as memories. As I walked away, I felt a mix of gratitude and ache, like I'd rediscovered something precious but couldn't hold on to it. To the women listening, I want to say this. You know what it's like to carry a piece of someone from your past, someone who saw you in a way others didn't, who left a mark you can't quite erase. Maybe it was a love that didn't work out, or a friendship that faded, or a moment that felt like it could have changed everything. Those memories aren't just baggage, they're proof of your capacity to feel deeply, to connect in ways that matter, but they're also a challenge to take what you learned from those moments and bring it to the life you're building now. For me, Claire was a reminder of what I'm capable of feeling, of what I want to find. Again, not her, but that kind of connection with someone who's ready to meet me where I am today. I'm still processing that day, still wrestling with what it means for my search. It's made me realize that the woman I'm looking for isn't just out there living her own life. She's someone who can handle the weight of mine without losing herself. She's someone who'd see that moment with Claire, not as a threat, but as part of who I am, part of what makes me human. And maybe, just maybe, she's someone who's had her own Claire, her own moment of looking back and wondering, but who's still brave enough to look forward and build something new. That's the hope I'm holding on to, and it's what keeps me going, even when the path feels impossible. Here we are, at the end of this raw, unfiltered dive into my search for something real, something beyond the noise, the headlines, the chaos of a life lived in the spotlight. I've shared the walls I've built, the scars from connections that slipped away, the jolt of reconnecting with a past that still haunts me. But now, let's talk about what comes next. Not just finding her the woman who sees me, but becoming the man she'd want to find. This isn't about tying a neat bow on the story, because life doesn't work that way. It's about the work I'm doing on myself, the lessons I'm learning, and the hope I'm holding on to that love, real love, is worth every ounce of effort it takes to get there. If you're listening, especially the women out there who've ever wondered if your own dreams and ambitions make love harder to find, this is for you. Let's talk about what it means to show up fully and build a life that makes room for something extraordinary. I've spent my life solving problems, big ones, impossible ones, from electric cars to reusable rockets to brain machine interfaces. I've tackled challenges that most people would call crazy. But here's the thing, those problems, as insane as they are, follow rules. Physics, math, engineering, they're predictable, even when they're hard. Love, love's a different beast. It doesn't care about your formulas or your timelines. It demands something I'm not always good at: vulnerability, patience, and a willingness to let go of control. For years, I thought I could approach relationships like I approach my companies: analyze, optimize, iterate. But every time I've tried, I've ended up with the same result: a connection that feels hollow or one that falls apart under the weight of my world. That's when I realized the problem isn't just out there, it's in me. If I want to find her, I have to start by changing myself. Let's be clear, I'm not talking about becoming someone else, some polished version of myself that fits a rom-com script. I'm talking about stripping away the defenses I've built, the habits that keep me safe but also keep me alone. I've gotten too good at hiding behind my work, my ideas, my public persona. I can talk for hours about colonizing Mars or the ethics of AI, but when it comes to talking about what's in my heart, what I'm afraid of, what I hope for, I clam up. It's not because I don't feel those things. It's because I've spent so long protecting myself from being used, from being seen as a means to an end, that I've forgotten how to let someone in. And that's the first thing I'm working on, learning to be open, not just in my head, but in my actions, in the way I show up every day. This isn't easy. I'm wired to solve, to fix, to move forward at a million miles an hour, but love doesn't work on my schedule. It's not a project I can throw a team at or a problem I can brute force with enough late nights. It requires something slower, something softer, patience. I'm learning to sit with uncertainty, to stop looking for the catch in every interaction, to give people the benefit of the doubt instead of assuming they're after something. It's humbling because it means admitting I've been wrong, not just about others, but about myself. I've been so focused on protecting my heart that I've made it nearly impossible for anyone to reach it. And that's not who I want to be. There's this moment I keep coming back to, not a dramatic one, but one that's stuck with me. I was at a small dinner party, maybe 6 or 7 people, hosted by a friend who's known me forever. No cameras, no agendas, just good food and better conversation. There was a woman there, not someone I was dating, just a guest, a writer working on a book about human connection in the digital age. We got to talking, and she said something that hit me like a lightning bolt. You can't build a relationship if you're always holding back the best parts of yourself. The messy parts, the real parts, that's what people fall in love with. She wasn't talking about me specifically, but it felt like she was. I realized I've been so focused on presenting the successful version of myself, the visionary, the problem solver, that I've buried the parts that actually matter, the doubts, the dreams, the moments when I'm just a guy trying to figure it out. That conversation was a wake up call. It made me see that finding the woman I'm looking for isn't just about luck or timing, it's about becoming someone who's ready for her. Someone who's not afraid to show up as himself, flaws and all. Someone who can sit across from her and say, "This is me, take it or leave it," and mean it. So I'm working on that. I'm practicing being honest, not just with others, but with myself. I'm learning to admit when I'm scared, when I'm unsure, when I don't have all the answers. It's uncomfortable as hell, but it's also freeing because the more I let go of the need to control how I'm seen, the more space I create for something real to grow. To the women listening, I want to speak to you directly. I know you're out there building incredible lives. Maybe you're running a company, teaching kids, creating art, or fighting for something you believe in. I know you've got your own walls, your own reasons for being careful with your heart, Maybe you've been hurt, or maybe you've just decided you're not settling for anything less than what you deserve. I respect that. I admire that. But I also want to challenge you. Don't let those walls become a cage. Don't let the fear of getting it wrong keep you from getting it right. The woman I'm looking for, she's someone like you, someone who's strong enough to stand on her own, but brave enough to let someone in. And if you're wondering if that's possible, if there's someone out there who's worth the risk, I'm here to tell you there is. But you have to be willing to show up too with all your mess, all your magic, all your fire. I'm starting to see that this journey isn't just about finding her, it's about becoming the kind of man who deserves her. That means letting go of the cynicism that's kept me safe but also kept me stuck. It means trusting that not everyone's out to use me, that some people might actually want me for me. It means being okay with failing, with getting hurt, because every failure is a step closer to getting it right. I think about the women I've met, the ones who've come close but couldn't stay, and I don't see them as losses anymore. They were lessons, each one teaching me something about what I want, what I need, what I'm capable of giving. And I'm grateful for them because they've brought me here to this moment where I'm ready to do the work, not just to find her, but to be ready when she shows up. I don't know when that'll be. Maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's years from now. Maybe she's out there right now, reading a book in a quiet cafe, or working late in a lab, or laughing with her friends about something completely ordinary. What I do know is that she's worth waiting for. She's worth the effort, the growth, the risk. And I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about all of you. If you're out there chasing your own dreams, building your own life, don't settle for a love that's less than you deserve. Don't let the noise of the world or the weight of your own past make you doubt your worth. You are enough exactly as you are, and there's someone out there who will see that, who will fight for that, who will show up for you the way you show up for them. For me, this is the final piece of the puzzle, or at least the piece I'm working on now. It's not about fixing everything overnight or finding a magic bullet. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, becoming the kind of man who's ready for the kind of love I've been chasing. It's about believing that it's possible even when it feels like the odds are stacked against me. Because if I can believe in colonizing Mars and rewiring the human brain and changing the world, then I can damn well believe in this. And so can you. So, to the women out there, to everyone listening, keep building your life, keep chasing your dreams, and keep your heart open, even when it's scary. Because the love you're looking for, the real, messy, beautiful kind, it's out there, and it's worth every step of the journey.